Hello everybody, it's the Dog Daddy. Before we get started, I wanted to genuinely thank every single one of you for being here. I cannot thank you enough for all the love and support that you have given me, especially in the recent days. I don't think I would be able to be here and continue to push through if it wasn't for all of you. I'm really excited for our future together, not only here on YouTube, but also in person. Before we get started with the show today, get your popcorn because this is going to be a good one.
I want to address all of the points you made in detail.
Excellent. We're going to get some detail.
But scientific consensus isn't just about direct comparison studies. It's built on a wealth of interdisciplinary evidence. That evidence consistently shows that positive reinforcement is at least as effective and is more ethical than using aversive dog training approaches. Prevailing scientific view is shaped by extensive research from multiple disciplines, including fields like biology, psychology, ethology, and more, all of which converge on the benefits of positive reinforcement over the use of aversive.
Theorizing isn't evidence. Zero citations is not evidence. Showing no practical application is not evidence, as Ian Dunbar states.
And it had to do with becoming theorists. And I'm sad to say I was the first person to introduce learning theory to dog training. Brought in a bit of science, but this was meant to aid the practice of dog training, not meant to be something you argue about in lieu of actually training the dog, which has happened. Online, I see many discussions about, well, which part of the quadrant are you in, and all this stuff, rather than how can we use our learning theory, not the one people are focused on, because that's over 50 years old. It's 50 to 100 years old. The learning theory, everyone is treating as gospel.
Consensus often emerges from a body of diverse, interdisciplinary research instead of an exact singular study.
This is just all talk, Zach. Where's your evidence? Where's your citations? Ethology doesn't even study positive reinforcement. As PhD in ethology and biology, Roger Abrantes says.
Ethology, for instance, there are no reinforcers and punishers. There are benefits and costs. And benefits and costs can explain things that, for instance, behaviorism that reinforcers and punishers cannot.
What gives your independent research more credibility over literally every behavior science organization on planet Earth?
It's obviously not my independent research. I'm just talking about the greater body of research.
Why should we take your word for it? And remember, respectfully, Jacqui, you're not a behavior scientist. Neither am I.
No, you and I aren't behavioral scientists, but Dr. Peroni, PhD in psychology, who has worked in experimental analysis of operant behavior for over 3 decades, is.
Influence of Skinner in general, and then Sidman's later writings in this area have done a lot to discourage the analysis of aversive control by operant psychologists, by behavior analysts. But there's a whole bunch of research on it by neuroscientists and cognitive psychologists, so we've left it to them. And the reason they're studying it is because it's clearly a part of the natural world. Negative reinforcement is an inevitable element of the natural environment, and it has many, many positive effects. So to just dispose of negative reinforcement as if it were anathema, as if it were something that should be avoided at all costs, just doesn't make sense. Don't want to create undue distress, but there are many forms of negative reinforcement and punishment that don't really generate the kinds of byproducts that people are talking about, or if they do, they're mild and temporary. There are many surprising results that people are often unaware of. In the category that positive reinforcement is good, people overlook the fact that we have lots of research in the laboratory that shows that schedules of positive reinforcement have aversive character. And there are portions of sessions where animals will reliably engage in a response to turn off the experiment.
I know there was more in your video that we could cover, and I'm happy to cover it, but quite frankly, this is getting really long. But there is no evidence of the scientific consensus. You haven't provided any evidence or citations. You've just talked about it. You've just theorized about it and said that these organizations claim it, so therefore it must be true. but the evidence isn't there. It's really just all talk, like Dr. Ian Dunbar says.
What is greater, more abusive in a dog? To solve the problem quickly using something that could be a little scary or physically painful, or not to solve the problem and live with it, giving the dog grief every day. You know, I don't like these straw man arguments about training when the dogs haven't been trained. I want to see proof for training. Behavior is observable and quantifiable, testable, so we can test what people are saying. You know, there's too many people blabbing at the moment and not enough people posting videos of what they're doing.
And to Zach, after this embarrassment that you brought onto yourself, I would suggest that you take some time to sleep, take care of those eye bags, and get some education on how to actually handle dogs in real life, and stop sitting behind a computer and misleading people and lying to people and creating a bigger problems and making dogs have to pay the ultimate price because you cannot help them, and let the ones that do it on a daily basis continue to do what they do best.